in the Wild West and get my Schofield 6 shooter so I can fast load that sucker, and then maybe to same time frame in England. I don't know. That's just me.
You know what I would do? I'd go back to when I was like 14 years old. And you know what? I would tell my parents how much I really appreciated everything they were doing for me, and do things different. Because when you're young, you take your parents for granted, and you say things you probably shouldn't say. And I would go back and try to correct everything. So, and then I could see my, family again. That would be more precious to me than going back to the 1890s or 1600s or anything. I would just like to go back. Of course, I don't know what would happen, because then I would go back and there would be myself at 13 years old. And would I be able to exist with myself at 13 years old?
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing about this. My theory is, and this is, and I've thought about this a long time. If you was to go back in the past, no matter what time frame, every time you go back, you're going to alter history. Because here's the thing. Say wherever you appeared at, you stepped on a bee and killed it, and that bee was going to sting and kill somebody that maybe was evil and killed 1 million people. Or maybe that bee was going to sting somebody and kill somebody that was going to have a baby that would cure cancer. There's all kinds of scenarios. But the point is, I think every time you would go back in the past, you would alter the future some way, some shape.
Yeah, and you could actually maybe, what happens if you went back and you stopped something from happening? Okay, and maybe that person invented the cure for cancer, but then his child became another Adolf Hitler or Mussolini or who knows who else, and killed literally, hundreds of thousands of people. I mean, strange things can happen if by manipulating. So maybe that's why when people do go back in time, if they can, they do their best not to disturb the time.
Right, and I actually think that's why we have these Mandela effects. I think it's a byproduct of it. But also, I think there's a theory that you wouldn't kill your grandfather or something, because I think every time you go back in time, you're not going back in time in your universe, so to speak. You're going back in a parallel universe, or you create another one, so to speak, if that makes sense. Because I just think that's what happens, because otherwise I think there'd be all kind of paradoxes going on.
I don't know, but I also read a theory that if you went back in time, for example, and let's say you did off your grandfather or your father and you were never born, then maybe you wouldn't exist when you go back into your time frame.
Yeah, there's all kinds.
I've seen a movie that way, so it has to be right. I've seen this movie where a guy went back and did something, and then when he came back, he no longer exists. And he came back for a split second, and the woman that loved him and he loved her, he just kind of like dissipated right in front of her. That was it.
Yeah, there is all kind of mind-bending things. I remember seeing in the early 80s that movie with Kirk Douglas where he was in the Navy and he went back in time in a triangle or Hawaii or somewhere, and they went back into World War II and he was going to fight the Jats with modern aircraft carrier. It was crazy.
Oh, yeah. Well, here, I'm reading this important news message here. Hold on. Okay, yep.
Uh-oh.
Yep, I got one maple bar in the bag. I'm set. Okay, I lied about it being important news. Okay, it was a bag with a maple bar in it.
Fresh off the wire, a maple bar delivered to Gary.
Yes, delivered. Special delivery.
Did you tip the carrier?
No, but I'll tell my wife thank you later tonight.
Oh, she's still talking to you. That's good.
She grunts at me. How's that?
Well, hey, that's better than spitting at you or kicking you or something.
I don't know. She did get over that. I mean, I'm not going to play any more practical jokes.
Right. It's probably wise not to. Yeah, I'm just saying.
No.
Oh, that Skeletor. That thing he's vicious. He reminds me of Skeletor from that one thing there. He's got the sword and the skull face. Jeez.
Well, it's funny. My son's two dogs, the big, huge monsters that are almost up to my chest. I mean, I swear to God, every week they grow 4 inches higher. But they tear everything apart they can get their mouths on. But they look at these two things, right? And they just stay away from them.
That's amazing.
They ignore
I'm surprised they haven't ate them.
I think they're too scared to.
Well, that's a good thing for what you paid for them. At least they haven't tore them up on you.
Yeah, that would be upsetting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, like in time travel, getting back to what was that one movie? I'm trying to think the original ones with the Morlocks and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, Rod Taylor.
Yeah, yeah.
It was Time something or other, but yeah.
That was
Time Machine.
Time Machine. That was an extremely good one. I was disappointed when they did the remake of that movie. I think the original one had so much class to it, and it really, when I was a little kid, well, I wasn't really that little. I was like probably 12, 13 when I first seen it. I think the first time it came out. I think. God, I could be off of my age. I'm getting old. I can't remember. God, I wonder where I put my car keys today. But anyway, I remember that movie scared me so bad that I had to crawl under the bed.
Oh, wow. That came out in 1960. But part I liked about that movie where he was sitting there in his machine looking out his window, and you could see like the years going by. I thought that was amazing when I first seen that when I was a kid.
I remember the Morlocks. Where they took the machine and it kind of hit it, and he found it, and he was, going forward in time, and they grabbed onto the machine, and they just kind of like, started like the flesh started falling off, and then there was skeletons, and there was this dust.
Yeah, that kind of stays with you if you're a youngin'.
I don't know.
Oh yeah, I remember watching time stuff like that. It'd be like, wow, that's. Yeah, it really got me thinking when I was young, seeing that kind of stuff. Especially that one movie with Kirk Douglas when they went back and fought the Japs, or was going to during Pearl Harbor, but yet they had a modern aircraft carrier.
Oh yeah, and I remember Twilight Zone had back in time. There was this army tank with about 4 guys on the tank, or 3 guys, or whatever it is, and they were out, practicing. And they ran they went back in time without realizing it. They started finding Indian artifacts, and they would pick it up and look at it, and and then all of a sudden they ran in where Custard was being massacred.
Oh, I missed that one.
And so they figured, okay, we're going to help Custard. Okay, I could never figure out why they grabbed their rifles and pistols and went down to fight the Indians when they had a tank.
Yeah, really. I mean, you got a tank. They could have wiped everybody out. My goodness, jeez.
They didn't even wouldn't even had to wipe it out. All they had to do was drive the tank down there. What would the Indians done?
There's nothing they could do. But best thing could have done was turn and run, because
they would have. They would have thought it was a big evil spirit.
Yeah, tanks are no joke. I mean, even the Nazi Panzers were such a force that, man, the American soldiers, when they heard those 50s going off, they knew that you need to take cover. They were no joke. So could you imagine what the Indians would have thought? Yeah, right. They would have run.
Yeah, they would have run. But I couldn't figure out why it was one when whoever the writer must have been drinking at the very end. I would have had them attack with the tank. It would have been so much exciting, but no, they attacked on the ground and went there with their rifles and pistols to fight the Indians and left the tank. And then
they're probably outnumbered 100 to 1.
Yeah, they were, because you know what happened to Custard. I mean, they could have, again, what would have happened if Custard would have survived?
Oh, if he'd have survived, he'd have got even a bigger head, and it would have been all bad. That's my opinion, anyway.
Yeah. I don't know.
And another thing that maybe a lot of people don't realize, every time you travel in a like 747 or a big airliner, you're actually traveling back in time a little bit. It's so minute you don't really notice it, but you really are.
Well, if I did that for like every day for 10 years, do you think I would get at least a year younger?
Well, I don't know. I know if you could leave at the speed of light just for a few minutes and came back, there would be a big difference in the people here. We would all age and you wouldn't.
One of my friends when I was in high school had a theory. If he drove his car backwards, he would go back in time. So Quincy would take his car, and every chance he would get, he would back up his car. This is a true story, a block or two. And he would do it all the time, thinking by backing up, because he would think he was backing up in time. Kind of strange kid, wasn't he?
Yeah, was he driving a DeLorean by any chance?
Yeah, it probably was an Edsel.
But, I always had a theory that if you could go opposite of the rotation of the Earth at faster than 1,000 miles an hour, you would be going back in time some way or another. But that was back when I was a kid. I don't know.
No, you haven't tried it yet?
No, I haven't. I just haven't got the funds to build me a machine to do that yet.
Yeah, I don't know. Then I was Madman. God, I can't think of his name. He was on Art Bell's show. He was going to come on my show. Madman something. He actually was working on a time machine.
In his garage.
No, he actually rented a small warehouse, and he got caught stealing power transformers. And
oh boy.
Yeah, well, before he got caught, though, he had these couple transformers, and what he was doing is taking this high voltage, and he was thinking the high voltage current would put you back in time somehow. And it was rather interesting, his theory, but, he would throw a coin into it, and it would disappear. And I think it disappeared not because it went back in time. I think it just kind of disintegrated from the high current.
It could have been. I mean, I've had theories trying to build something like that using mercury and reverse fields and electrical fields spinning in different rotations to create a field to do that. But every time I get involved in something like that, I end up shorting out the fuses and things, so I quit. Parents get mad.
Well, Dreamland, you know what? What he said, he puts on an old record and sometimes goes back in time. I sometimes have dreams, like 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And during that dream, I'm back in time. Now, is that dream real? Is that a real reality? Or is this a real reality? Which one is real?
Well, I will say this much. If this is a dream, it's a long, daggone dream and very realistic.
Yeah, it could be, but if we're on a simulation on a computer chip, I don't know.
And another thing, I seen something where somebody says if we lived on a flat Earth, the cats would knock everything off the edge. So that proves we're not on a flat Earth. I seen that the other day. I thought I'd just let you know about that.
Well, guess what? Somebody posted a picture from the top of Mount Everest, and their quote from their picture they posted. They said, This should shut up all the flat enders. You could see the curvature of the Earth being on Mount Everest.
Well, that's why you can only see, if you're out in the ocean, you can only see 22 point some miles because it curves. You know what I mean? Like the Earth curves. That's why you can only see like 22.2 or 22.3 miles on the horizon, on a flat horizon, because the Earth curves.
Yeah, but they got a reason for it. So, for some people, if they want to believe the Earth is flat, let them. Okay? It's nothing wrong with that. But just don't go on the bottom side of the Earth. I'm wondering how the people in China just don't fall off with their theories.
It's probably the old theory, like a flat tire. It's only flat on the bottom. So they live on the other side. To them, they live on the good side. We're on the bottom.
Oh, yeah. Well, anyway, coming up here, we got our news break, and then we're going to bring on Tim Swartz. We're going to talk real subject, not just joking around. We're going to be talking about time travel and all that stuff. But I still can't wait till next week. I'd tell you, some of the guests we got booked in will actually freak you out. I mean, that they're that good of caliber of guest on Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark. I mean, the show is taking a major jump in its rating on the radio stations, the amount of listeners. It's gone crazy.
Absolutely, and it's really, we're really going to be going big time here with all these big guests and all the new format with the updates, the news, Tobias and Mr. Fusco. Yeah, it's going to really take off.
I don't know if it's going to be really big up, but hey, it'll be better than what it is now. Anyway, we'll be back in about 2.5 minutes with the news. So hey, go get a cup of Java, find a nice easy chair, and maybe pull a blanket up and get comfy. And we'll be back with the news and then with Tim Swartz on Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark.